this email here. How did you stay mentally healthy and motivated when getting surgery and recovering? Brother, did you listen to any of the podcasts I did while I was fucking recovering? I was not mentally healthy. I was trying my best. G'day, Lewis. I previously sent in an email for miscellaneous bit at the end, the worst part of the podcast, about abandoning my terminally ill mother to move to Melbourne. Your advice was just what I needed to hear and helped me through the issue. I have now moved to Melbourne and I don't regret it. Yeah, fuck that dying bitch. I was a little savage in that email though. Like, damn, she isn't that bad, but your advice genuinely helped me so much and I appreciate you taking the time for such a great answer. She wasn't that bad? You're a bad son. Go and help her. Move out of Melbourne. Take care of your dying mother. You're a horrible... No. I'm sure you know what you're doing, all right? I have a new question for you after experiencing something myself. I just went on a holiday in Japan. I went snowboarding and some fucking idiot used me as a crash pad. No, you know what happened? Some Japanese person saw a white guy filming themselves and was like, I've had enough of these fucking gaijin disrespecting my country. And he fucking kamikazed you. Banzai! And took you out on the fucking slopes. As a result, I have 2 broken ribs, various sprains, and bruising. Worst of all, a completely annihilated knee. Good job, Hiroshi. You brought a lot of honor to your family by taking out this dirty gaijin, ruining your great country on the slopes. The rib bruising and sprains aren't too bad, as they will eventually heal over time and come good. However, my knee is going to require a major surgery and reconstruction along with at least 12 months of rehab to return to a normal life. Been there, brother. Except it was 4 years. Oh, and now I can't go to the dentist. This has kind of ruined so much shit for me and made my life incredibly difficult as I now live in Melbourne by myself with no real support. Well, how do you think your sick mother feels, huh? No, I'm joking. I'm joking. And I have only 2 friends somewhat nearby, which I don't want to rely on. That's a mistake. You got to rely on people that are willing to help you, dude. You don't get through illness without the support of loved ones. The logistics are cooked. I cannot drive or walk. Dude, I can relate to half of that. And I won't be able to for at least 3 months in the best case scenario. My rehab requires constant stretching and exercise, icing and rest, and so many guidelines to make sure I don't ruin my knee permanently. This process is not going to end anytime soon. I will eventually see improvement to where I can walk and drive, but that won't be for a while. I'm having trouble staying positive as I feel like this has just killed all hope and motivation I have to do anything. It's a huge roadblock to my university. I just started a new job and I don't have any sick or recreational leave. Staying motivated to constantly work on my leg post-surgery and not just give up and accept my life as a cripple is a daily struggle. Given that you have gone through multiple major surgeries and a lengthy, difficult recovery yourself, what can you suggest working on and what type of mindset kept you motivated and positive to get through it and recover? Thanks again, Spearhead Zunnies fan. Okay. Here's the reality. How did you stay mentally healthy and motivated when getting surgery and recovery? I didn't. That's okay. I tried my best. I was not very mentally healthy, but I did do one thing, and that was I fucking tried every single day. It is really difficult to lose an essential bodily function. For me, it was talking and eating. For you, it's walking, all right? I remember, I think I was bedbound for at least a month, maybe even 2. And even then, I couldn't leave the house for much because I was ugly and swelling and drooling and I couldn't eat food, all right? Couldn't chew. And that happened to me twice, all right? Because I had 2 surgeries. And the first one didn't make me feel any better. All right, we know this. All you can do is try. One thing that was really difficult to do, but was also essential, was I gave up. Not on everything, but on a lot of things. I gave up on doing things that would have been very possible for me now, but became impossible for sick me. And that was not a permanent give up. It was a temporary one because I naively got myself into this place where I would just keep trying and bashing my head against the wall, and I would have a good run for 2 months, and then the reality of how sick I was would defeat me, and then I would go back to square one. And that process of trying to get momentum and then being too sick to fucking keep it up, and then going backwards even further back from where I started, because it was just this cycle of like trying to the detriment of myself, and then going so far backwards because I was fucking ruining myself and overworking myself and not honoring my body and my mind, and making myself worse because I wasn't focused on recovery or being ill. I was just focused on ignoring that and pushing through it and hustling and being on my grind and I'll be fine. I just need to work harder, burning myself out and harming myself by doing so. That, and breaking my own heart from like getting somewhere and losing it and getting somewhere and losing it. I remember I made the conscious decision I just need to fucking give up, and I need to only focus on one thing. And that one thing was being sick and becoming well. Because in the scheme of things, a year feels like a really long time, or 4 years for me feels like a really long time. But in the scheme of your entire fucking life, I was talking to a woman that was 85 years old at church on Sunday. And she was telling me how she lived through the recovery of World War II. That was so fucking long ago, all right? 4 years in a lifespan of 80. We're probably going to live to our 90s, dude, if we look after ourselves. Our generation, all right? 4 out of 90, it's a fucking blip, all right? You sounds like it's only 1 year. That's an even smaller blip. And it feels bigger when you're young, especially when you're so excited and you've moved out and you think you're going to live this amazing life. Dude, brother, I've been there. I moved out to my first house, and then fucking COVID happened. And then I finally got diagnosed, and then lockdown happened, and then I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even begin my recovery journey because non-essential medical procedures, whatever the fuck that means, was banned. So I just had to get progressively more and more and more sick during that time. And then when everybody else finished lockdown, I entered my own personal lockdown round 2, where I had to go through surgeries and recoveries and watch the whole world come out of their fucking prison while I went into my own little personal one, right? So that was really difficult for me. And I had to decide to give up everything else and stop trying with everything else so that I could focus on just being well. And that was really difficult, but it was essential. And it was what made it possible, all right? There's this really good book that I should have read before I went through all of this, but I started reading during the process, and I'll recommend it to you and to anyone else who's going through something or about to go through something, or even who have never really gone through something terrible yet, because everybody will, because that's life, all right? And at this point in my life, I had a real lucky run. I got to my like mid-20s and I hadn't really experienced anything truly awful. But then it all happened at once and I had no idea how to handle it, right? Great book, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. There's one chapter in it that potentially would have changed my entire life and how I would have gone about my surgery and my recovery process. And it basically says, all right, the premise of the book is the obstacle is the way, right? Where if there's an obstacle in your path, the only way to get through, the only way past that obstacle is to actually go through it, to conquer it, to overcome it. But there is one chapter in that book where it basically just reverses everything that was said in that book. And it basically says that this, like, some obstacles are genuinely fucking impossible. And a lot of that is just because you are attempting something that is impossible. It doesn't matter how hard you try to fly, with no assistance from an airplane, you will never be able to do that. So no matter how hard you work, the only thing you're going to do to yourself is make you go insane. So for me, my impossible obstacle was trying to do all of the stuff that I'm doing now while I was sick, right? That was the impossible obstacle that I should have given up on so much sooner. I would have saved myself so much money, so much pain, so much stress, so much time. And as counterintuitive as this feels for my career, it would have been so much better for my career to disappear for a couple of years and say, hey guys, I'm going to be sick for a couple of years. I will update you periodically through my process. I only really did that in like the last year of my illness. And you guys saw that, where I fucking disappeared. I even paused my Patreon. I stopped making everything. I stopped posting on social media. But I didn't choose to do that. I had to do that because my entire fucking body shut down. Because I bashed my head against a wall and tried to achieve the fucking impossible. I'm going to be a traveling comedian while unbelievably ill. And all I really achieved was like sporadic uploads. I made like 1 or 2 good videos, and I made a whole bunch of average shit. And I just blew through all of my money trying to make stuff and pay all the bills and pay salaries and all this kind of stuff, when really what I should have done is taken all the savings that I had and really looked at it and gone, I actually can afford to take a full year off and be sick here, instead of spending all of my money trying to ignore the fact that I am sick and create my way through it while making myself sicker and more stressed and more insane. All right? So my advice to you would be, yes, you've moved to a new place and you're probably really, really excited to do all of these new things and engage with your newfound freedom now that you don't live with your ill and mean mother, right? But sorry, brother, you are sick. You have to focus on your knee. So my recommendation to you would actually be, cut out every single fucking thing from your life that isn't making sure you have enough money in the bank to recover and recover. That's the only thing that matters. Add in some friends and family and a bit of community. That's it. The only thing you should be focused on is becoming well. All right? And making enough money to look after yourself, buy food, see doctors, do therapy, physical therapy and all that kind of stuff, and look after your leg. Because what's going to impact you more? All right? A year of pausing all of your amazing goals and aspirations and your life to fix your leg, or having a fucked leg for your entire life and being unable to live it. Because that's the decision that I had to make. And I made the wrong decision for years until I was forced to make the correct one, because I ran out of money, because my body shut down, because I pushed myself way too far and everything just blew up in my face. And I was forced to just take 3 months off where I didn't talk to anyone, I didn't make anything. And then I was like, fuck, this is actually so much better for me. I should have done this a long time ago. I would have saved myself so much time and pain and money. Right? Because as awful as it would have been for me to stop doing this podcast and stop making videos and all this kind of stuff, and I felt like, oh man, I'm going to lose if I do that, I'll lose all my fans and my audience, and people will be disappointed. You know what else is more disappointing to you guys? Fucking releasing a sporadic podcast where I had a fucking lisp, where I could only do episodes for 30 minutes, where I mostly just talked about being sad and sick. That I don't think much value was gotten from that, and it certainly harmed me a lot. So when you are going through a really tough time, sometimes you have to cut everything out and focus on going through a really fucking tough time. I've actually been thinking about writing a book about this, about like how to walk through hell. And you can't walk through hell while you're also trying to become an athlete, trying to fucking study, trying to become the greatest comedian to ever come out of Australia. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you just have to focus on walking through hell, and that's the only way you're going to get to the other side, is to, because a lot of this stuff, and especially for me, when I was ill, speaking for myself, I didn't acknowledge that I was sick. And so the only way you can actually get better physically, mentally, spiritually, is to acknowledge that you are sick. All right? The person who breaks their arm doesn't heal their arm by ignoring the fact that their arm is broken and continuing to play the sport in which they broke it. They fix their arm by stopping football, going to the doctor, putting their arm in a cast, and taking the fucking time off. For some reason, with sports and injuries, it's so much more obvious that we have to stop doing the sport that caused the injury so that we can continue playing the sport. But with our lives, we don't acknowledge that. Like with grief, when someone important to you dies, when you go through a horrible breakup, when you experience some kind of trauma, we never think, oh, I actually have to stop and go through this. We always just think, nah, I just need to fucking work harder. I know that I'm sick, but I got to go to work. I know that I'm sick, but I have a fucking dream. If I just stopped and really was like, nah, I'm really sick and I need to resolve this, I had a shit run. COVID stopped all surgeries, so a little bit impossible for me. My only option really was to continue creating. But when I got through COVID and those surgeries started to happen to me, I should have stopped. I should have let all my wonderful employees go and gone, sorry, I can't afford to look after you because I have to look after me. And I wouldn't have had all of this fucking stress. I wouldn't have had to do a tour that I was too sick to do, that I ended up having to cancel shows for, all this kind of stuff. I would have been able to use that money to look after me, and I would have been able to work. I would have not had to work myself to death, and I would have allowed myself the grace of being ill and recovering and focusing on that. And I didn't do that until my body shut down. And if you don't take the time off to have a fucked knee, you will just have a fucked leg forever. Your body will make you do it. The same is true of the mind. If you are really going through it, if you've experienced a big trauma, a breakup, a death, if you don't process that stuff, if you don't take time to acknowledge the hurt and the injury, it'll never heal. And that goes for emotional, spiritual, and physical injuries. If you don't acknowledge you're sick, you cannot heal, because that's how you heal, is by being sick. So my advice to you and my advice to my old self is to go, it's okay. Don't attempt the impossible. Your incredibly ambitious goal and amazing achievement that you need to be focusing on is recovering from this horrific injury. Because you know what I hear heaps from people whenever I tell them what I've been through, or people that watch me go through it, is I hear all the time, oh my God, I could never do that. That is amazing. And you know what? It fucking is. Recovering from an injury or a trauma or a death or anything like that. It's really fucking hard and it's really amazing. So you need to put all of your energy into that, because if you don't, either you never will recover or you will be forced to only focus on that by your body, because everything will fall apart if you don't focus on it. So how did I stay mentally healthy while I was recovering? I didn't, but I tried my fucking best to, and I looked after myself. And if I didn't look after my emotional state and my mind and my body, then I never would have become well. People look at me now after all the shit that I've been through, and there's a lot of stuff that I haven't spoken about, right, publicly, and that other people in my life know, they look at me and they go, wow, how did you get through all of that and stay mentally sane? But that's in retrospect. I'm okay now because I allowed myself the grace and the opportunity to not be okay and to really fucking struggle physically, mentally, spiritually. And that's why now I'm on the other side giving people like you some advice because I've been there. And that is the gift of sustained trouble, resilience, and wisdom. You will come out of this the strongest, most resilient, and powerful version of yourself, but only if you allow this to happen and if you allow yourself to be sick and through that heal. If you ignore it, if you block it out, if you shove it down, like so many of us men are so good at doing when we experience not just a physical injury, but an emotional or a spiritual one, right? Or a relationship trauma, right? We're so good at shoving that shit down. If you do that, you will come out the other end as actually a much weaker, much more fragile version of yourself. And I'm not just talking about your knee, but I am also talking about your knee. The permanent gift of temporary but sustained troubles is resilience and wisdom, brother. And the ability to help other people through it. I hope that you, like me, will get through the other thing and think to yourself, man, I would never choose to go through that again. But I understand that the only reason I am this version of me, the strongest, most resilient, emotionally intelligent, and able to help other people version of myself is because of all that awful shit that I would never choose for myself or anyone else to go through. So what really helped me was writing every day and going for a walk every day. Now that part might be a bit difficult for you. But maybe you can sit in the backyard. I remember when I couldn't walk after my surgery for a couple months, I just sat in the backyard and I got sun in my face. And that was all that I could do. And I bet you could do that with your fucked knee. I bet you could get out of the house and sit. Or I bet you could at least fucking sit by the window. Or if you couldn't do that, I bet you could get someone else to open the curtains and just get some sun on your face. That helps heaps, right? And I would write every single day. The Artist Way book is a really good book. Buy that book. Do the program. It's changed my fucking life. I still do it. I still write every 3 days. Every day I write 3 pages, and that helps me so much. And, you know, when awful shit happens, like what's happened this week with my family, I'm already writing 3 pages every day. I'm in that habit. So fucking Monday, I write 3 pages of horse shit, of nothing. Or maybe I write 3 pages of jokes and I'm really happy. And then on Tuesday, something awful happens, but I know I'm writing 3 pages. And that helps. And I write 3 pages, whether the day is good, whether the day is boring, whether the day is bad, and it helps. And it's like it's like self-defense, and it's like it really helps. And I had a little motto that I don't think I've ever spoken about this, but I have a motto that I told myself and this is why I want to write a book about this stuff, because I feel like, you know, this is, you know, again, this goes back to like, I wouldn't choose to go through it again, but fuck, I've learned a lot from doing it. And it has made me like able to help other people through awful stuff. When I decided to give up on everything other than becoming well, I kind of look at my dream, right, as like a fire, like this fire burning in my soul. Like it's not even my fire. It came from somewhere else and it was put in me, right? Whether that's God or whatever you think that is, it comes like when I, you know, when I write something that's truly great, I feel like I'm grabbing something from another universe and trying my best to translate it and put it out. That's what I feel like when I write, right? And this goes for even just dumb jokes or whatever I write in my book, or when I'm drawing, or when I'm creating something. I feel like I'm grabbing it from another dimension and poorly translating it to reality, right? That's how I feel. And I feel like my dream is like my fire. And I feel like we all have fire, right? And fire needs fuel. So for me, I do comedy, right? And if I don't do things with my life, there's no fuel. If I don't leave my house, there's no fuel. So when I was sick, nothing much was funny because I wasn't doing much. And especially when I was sick and it was during lockdown and I couldn't leave my house and everyone was fucking sad, there wasn't much funny about that, right? If you go and listen to my podcast, there's, the episodes are short. I'm not very happy. Because I'm not doing much, because I wasn't physically able to do much. There wasn't much fuel for my fire, right? Now that I'm healthy, right? You notice most of the episodes, they're long, but not in a shit way. Like, they're good, and I'm not trying to make them long. They just are, because I've got a lot of fuel. So I'm doing a lot of stuff. My mind works. I'm looking at a lot of stuff. I'm putting things in. I'm reading. I'm doing. I'm living. I'm going to the dentist and having a horrible time and telling you about that because it's funny. It's fuel for my fire, which is my dream. And everyone has a fire. And it's a different type of fire for everyone. Some people want to be an athlete. Some people want to be a pro basketballer. Some people want to be an artist. Some people want to help people. Some people want to be a priest or a fucking scam artist. Everyone has a fire, and a fire needs fuel. And writing every day helped me realize that there was no fuel, or there was hardly any fuel. And if I kept trying to turn my fire, my soul, into this massive bonfire that it kind of is now, where I'm creating so much stuff and I'm so inspired, I'm touring, I'm making videos, I'm doing podcasts, I'm writing my emails, I'm thinking about writing a fucking book, man. Like, my fire feels like a bonfire right now because I'm putting the correct amount of fuel on it because I have access to that fuel. But when I was ill, when I had gone through all of this stuff, that I haven't really spoken about, grief and all this shit, I didn't have much fuel. And every time I tried to turn it into a bonfire, I ran the risk of my entire fire disappearing. What happens when you don't put wood in a fire? It goes down into little coals. What happens when you have so little fuel that all you have is coals, and then you just start grabbing logs and throwing it onto the fire? You extinguish the entire fire, and now you got to start again from scratch, and that's hard. So I looked at my dream, and I still do, as like this fire in my soul that I'm tending to, that I'm fueling. And I think everybody's like this. And when I wasn't able to fuel my fire because I was sick and I had gone through these things, every time I tried to ramp it up and do what I'm doing now, that I am well, that I've processed these things, I would kill my fire. And that would be so much more painful than having a small little fire. And that's kind of what I discovered when I was writing about what I was going through and what I was feeling and what I was thinking, is that I have this fire. And I realized that I really needed to protect this. And I really needed to protect myself so that I could keep my fire alive. And the big realization that I had was that if I was going to get through this, if I was going to survive this illness and this shit that happened with my fire intact, either I would have to burn my fire until there was no fuel left and I would really struggle to get it back at all, or I would have to intentionally ration my fuel, and bring my fire down to a little, a smaller fire that required less fuel to ration the fuel that I did have, which wasn't much. And that's how I visualized it. I thought, okay, I don't have enough fuel to build the fire that I want, but I need a fire because that's the only thing that's going to keep me alive through this. Do you see is this making sense? I was the one that was fueling the fire, but the fire was keeping me alive, and I didn't have much fuel, so I had to intentionally bring it down to a small little, just some coals to keep it alive, to keep me alive, right? I had to stop my dream so that I could keep my dream, so that it could get me through my troubles. And I visualized this. I even drew it in a notebook one day. It's in this chest here. One of these notebooks has this little drawing. And I tried to envision myself as this protector of my own fire, the guardian of my own fire. And I'm still this. And the fire's much bigger now, but that's because I have the fuel to keep it big and to maintain it. So that I don't, what's the word? Burn out. And I still write this. I would imagine myself as a protector of my fire, and I thought one day, and I think it was even one of the exercises in the Artist's Way book, where I actually visualized a suit of armor for myself that I would wear to protect my own fire. And I, like every man going through it, was reading Berserk at the time, and he's got this fucking sick black suit of armor that he wears. And he puts it on when he really protects people that he loves, right? And I would write this every day, and I still write this almost every day. I write, "Encased in black armor, no evil shall dull my flame." And what I mean by that is, I'm not going to let illness and sadness and trauma and shit dull my flame, because it's my flame. I will protect my flame. And part of protecting your flame is giving it the appropriate amount of fuel and having an understanding of how much fuel you have to burn at all to keep a sustainable fire. And when you're sick, when you're going through it, when you've experienced something awful, for a little bit or for a long while, like me, or even longer for other people that, have it even worse, maybe you don't have much fuel. And as the protector of your fire, sometimes you got to bring that fucking bonfire that you want it to be down to just coals to protect it, to keep it alive, because that's your dream and that's your fire and it's your responsibility to protect. And that's how I viewed it. And still now that things are going well, I still think of myself as the protector of my own flame. Encased in black armor, no evil shall dull my flame. That's what you need to do, is you got to look at your fuel and you got to allocate accordingly. And when you're sick, you don't have much fuel. And if you push past that, you're going to run out of fuel and your fire will die. And that's going to hurt you so much more than having a small little fire for as long as it takes to become well or to overcome whatever you're going through. Does that make sense? Encased in black armor, no evil shall dull my flame. That's my advice to you.